Oh boy.
And Yarde with a good finish to the fight.
So we got to talk about this. Former contender for the 175-pound WBO title. I think it was WBO twice. Former opponent of Sergey Kovalev, lineal 175-pound champion. Former opponent of lineal, now undisputed 175-pound champion Artur Beterbiev. Well, Anthony Yarde, in my opinion, should go on to lose an upset to a Latvian fighter by the name of Ralfs Vilcans. That's what the Sky Sports commentators were calling him. Here is George Groves' card. The viewer's verdict. Oh, they gave it to 97-90 Yarde. Now, it must be noted that the very first punch that Anthony Yarde threw, the very first 10 seconds of the round, put Vilcans down. But since then, he was outboxing, more active than Anthony Yarde when it comes to punch output. It was several rounds where Anthony Yarde just was following this guy around. Let's listen to the cards.
We go to referee Victor Laughlin for his official decision. He sees the contest 98-92.
Oh no!
Anthony, the Beast from the East.
I don't think he won that fight. But in a way,
I don't think Vilcans has maybe been rewarded as much as he might have been on the scorecard, Sarah. As we were saying throughout the course of the fight, towards the end, Yarde just had to make absolutely sure that he closed the door there, because Vilcans was landing some good
y'all think he won?
So maybe he's been a little bit shortchanged there.
Let's see what the people have to say.
Anthony Yarde has got the win, and it'll be interesting to see his reaction to it.
I'm going to listen to his post-fight interview before we talk about what's next for Anthony Yarde. And coming into this fight, and you know, Anthony Yarde has a history of when he loses, he goes on a hard rebuild. The type of rebuild where he fights, you know, guys like, let's see, after he lost to Kovalev, Diego Ramirez, 4-48. Dex Spellman, 16-4. He fought Lyndon Arthur before he was going to move on to a title shot. Lost to him. Alex Theran. Lyndon Arthur again beat him, knocked him out in the rematch. Stefani Koiklov. And you may think like, oh, okay, this guy's 14-1. Well, when you start going down a rabbit hole, and I encourage you to do this when you see some of these guys' resumes. He's 16-2, but look at the guys he was beating. 4-50, 26-45, 12-20, 7-9. So a lot of these times, don't let these fights fool you. For example, then he went on a fight. Artur Beterbiev got stopped. However, he was doing pretty good in that fight, just like he was against Kovalev. When he decides to box and use his jab, he's a very good fighter. He's a world-class fighter. I can see him as being a world champion one day, but not a, how can I say, oh, here he is, post-fight interview. Let's listen in.
He was quite.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.
He's got to say, he's with Andy Scott.
Let's see what the people have to say.
What was that, 98-92 on the cards? Yes. Was that a harder night than you thought it would be against a very game and strong Ralfs Vilcans?
100%. In my career, I've had like very little experience in terms of doing long rounds. So usually when I hit someone, the fight's done. I think the worst thing that happened was me dropping him in the first round. Because then I got content with like, okay, I'll knock out this guy anytime. And then, yeah, man, it's full experience. That's why in the last round I said, you know what, let me just box. I might not knock him out this fight.
They cooking him. Look at these comments.
Different kind of experience.
You'll have plenty of time to sort of analyse the performance and talk about with your coach what worked, what didn't work. But I have to ask you about the future. Who and what do you want to do next? I mean, there's obviously a big name in our studio. There's plenty of talk about it. What do you want to do?
I'll fight anybody. That's literally it. I'll fight anybody. Styles make fights. And I fought at the top of the mountain. Sometimes, again, who is put in front of you might bring out the best version of you. So, again, this is the last minute opponent. So maybe mentally I got a bit complacent.
So if they put Joshua Buatsi in front of you, you'll say yes?
I'll have to turn up. There's so many names. There's Joshua Buatsi, there's Dan Aziz, Craig Richards. There's so much names in this British scene. Again, I fought twice at world level. Beterbiev. Before Bivol, I gave him his hardest fight. there's fights out there. But again, Josh Buatsi is one of the fights I want personally. There's names.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk. I want to see the punch stats. So, just my opinion. I know I'm going to probably get cooked in the comments, but I think that Vilcans did enough. Just enough to edge it, if not a draw. Let's hear what Buatsi has to say.
Get rid of him. We heard what he had to say, but look, I'm outside the ring. I'm comfortable. I wouldn't say too much, but I know what I would have done with that opponent. You guys are looking for some instigation, but look, Yarde fought, man. It is what it is. As I said, I promise you, I came out here to support Aziz. Yes, Yarde is a name that you guys want to see me fight. Based on that, make your judgments.
Based on that, are you more confident?
I was confident before. And as you said, he said himself, if I'm boxing Buatsi, I'll have to show up. We saw that, so it is.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to start chatting rubbish about him and how he performed. I boxed, I think, a month ago, and I needed to show up. It wasn't my best performance, but we got the win. We got a few knockdowns. He put the man down in the first round. Guy should not have seen past round 3, in my opinion.
What do you think, Johnny? Like Joshua said there, round 1, it almost...
Sheesh. So here's the thing. Here's my thoughts on Yarde versus Buatsi. Yarde is right now a holder of the keys for Buatsi. That's going to be his role if they were to fight, right? Can Joshua Buatsi get past a former world title contender or challenger? Anthony Yarde right now is the gatekeeper. And if he loses to if he loses to Joshua Buatsi, he will be forever a hold of the keys. It's more of a must-win fight for It is a must-win fight, in my opinion. It's a must-win fight for Anthony Yarde. But Buatsi, if he loses, even though he's 31 years old, he can still go back and rebuild from that because he lost to a former world champion contender. But as it stands, listen, I'm not, even though Yarde didn't show up tonight, and let's give Vilcans his credit because Duke can box. And remember, he was a late replacement too. So these guys, they didn't watch a lot of tape on each other. But Yarde, he has this history of rebuilding with these TBAs, and tonight it caught up with him. He had a bad performance, these late, replacements. And this guy is ranked, by the way, by the WBA. We're going to look at the rankings. But I want to see if Buatsi has anything to say before Skinny Jeans wearing Sky Sports Johnny Nelson got something to say. After he finishes what he has to say.
Well said, indeed. Right, we are going to move on because coming up after the break, Adam Azim looks to extend his unbeaten run.
I'm not usually a fan of skinny white girls, but I like Anna Warhouse. Anyway, moving on. What I was saying was, see, look, he'll lose, and then he'll go on a club fighter bash-a-thon. Lose club fighter. Linda Arthur wasn't supposed to be. He wasn't supposed to lose to Linda Arthur. Lost to Artur Beterbiev. Then he goes fight Jorge Silva, 23-15. Marco Nikolic. Let's see. What was your resume? And look at the guys. Look at the guys he been beating up. 30 for look. So it really like how do you grow from this? By the way, Vilcans' only loss was to this Jacob Bank guy, is a Denmark fighter who's on a winning streak. But once again, look who he's been fighting. But Vilcans got some boxing ability, and he's got some balls on him because he wasn't giving Anthony Yarde no ground, despite Anthony Yarde's, I guess you could say, opposing physique. But moving on, here is Vilcans right here ranked. Anthony Yarde is ranked number 5 by the WBC, 3 by the WBA, 3 by the IBF, and number 1 by the WBO. So he's highly ranked. And it's all for what? And this is not Anthony Yarde slander. It's just the politics of the sport. These type of fights don't help him. And eventually these TBAs, because it's not the first time where you'll see Anthony Yarde on a card, but it's like, who's the opponent? And it's like, Leo Santa Cruz is the same way when he was fighting. We don't know what's going on with him anymore. But can Buatsi get past I think from what we've seen tonight, obviously, we would pick Buatsi. But as Anthony Yarde said, which is true, you fight up to the level of the opponent. And who knows how much Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol motivated Vilcans. He probably went out there like, look, I'm going to get this money. And now I want to see Vilcans again. Him being a TBA and now, losing to Anthony Yarde in the performance that he put on. It's like, okay, like how can he grow from that? So expect to see some more from him in the future. It was something else I had to say. Oh, by the way, of course, Anthony Yarde is no longer with Frank Warren. I'm sure Frank Warren is probably somewhere looking at Anthony Yarde like, hi, you lucky bastard. Almost lost to that club fighter. But I think we should give Vilcans some credit, though. And I got to be honest, if you were to ask me right now, I'm not confident that Buatsi can still beat Yarde tonight. Yes, he would beat the Yarde that fought tonight. And I do believe that maybe maybe Buatsi would have had an easier time with Vilcans because of boxing styles. I would say Buatsi is more of a technical fighter than Yarde. Yarde does have the jab, but Yarde, he loses it sometimes, and he has a consistent pattern of the later the fight goes, he tends to slow down a bit. Not in this case. He looked good compared to the fact that he had a fighter that was actually there in front of him fighting. He didn't gas out like I thought he would, and he has, in previous fights. But no, for the most part, it just, maybe it was the TBA. I'm not making any excuses for the man, though. And I'm rambling on. The Dan Aziz fight, the fact that he brought him up and not Buatsi next, I think that they need to not bullshit around, and Ben Shalom need to not bullshit around, because I'm not a fan of his promotional style when it comes to marinating on fights. And I won't be surprised if we don't see Buatsi versus Anthony Yarde yet. And by the way, remember, Joshua Buatsi is now a world champion, interim champion, but a world champion. But waiting to see what's going to happen with the IBF and if they're going to strip Beterbiev, or if he's going to get an exemption, if he's going to vacate, and we're waiting to see if that rematch is going to happen, and that's pretty much going to shake up the 175-pound division. So basically, David Benavidez and David Morrell, the WBC interim champion and the WBA regular champion, basically they're both interim champions. They're supposed to be fighting in early 2025. Michael Eifert, if that's how you pronounce his name, he's the IBF mandatory for Artur Beterbiev, and the IBF called for that shot. It's possible that can be pushed back if Eifert accepts a step aside and the IBF approves for Bivol Beterbiev, or Beterbiev Bivol 2. In my opinion, I'm trying to figure out who's the first mandatory. And okay, Eifert's the first mandatory. But is it Buatsi next, then the winner of David Morrell, David Benavidez? Somebody let me know down below in the comments. I believe it goes Buatsi. I believe it goes Eifert, Buatsi, Benavidez. That's how I believe it goes. Then Morrell. With that being said, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm TstreeT Controversy with Fight View 360. If I was to rank Anthony Yarde right now, could he beat David Benavidez? Hell no. Could he beat David Morrell? Hell no. Volsdik, if Vilcans was able to do what he did tonight, Volsdik would clearly beat Anthony Yarde, in my opinion, because they have a similar fighting style, and Volsdik is more accurate. Could Anthony Yarde beat Callum Smith? We don't know what Callum Smith is doing these days, so I can't say so. But, Dan Aziz, let's see how Dan Aziz looks tonight. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm TstreeT Controversy with Fight View 360.